Hey guys, it's Tabitha with McHarper Manor, and all of the kids, well, all but Asher, he's not feeling it today, so we are not pushing. So we are going to do some Shrinky Dinks today, and we're going to show you guys how we do them here. So we are using a few basic supplies. We're using our Rough and Ready or the matte style Shrinky Dink sheets. These are just a plastic shrinking sheet. You can search by any of those terms. These are what we're going to use to make our little creations. We like to trace ours too. So we've got some little graphics that we like, and we're going to trace over those, and we're going to show you guys how that works. We have just a variety of different ones. We are going to start with some Sharpie markers, just any permanent marker is fine. These are going to be used to fill in. We're going to start by outlining in black, and then we're going to fill in with the other colors that we have. This way we can just make a nice little border. If you want to color it first and then outline in black too, that works great. Just know that if you outline in black first and then you color, sometimes the permanent marker against the line that you created will kind of, you know, erase part of that line, and you can just add it right back in with the black when you're finished. So let's get started. So we are just tracing these sheets with a Sharpie, and we've got our little designs that we want to trace over here. And everybody is just putting some Sharpie down on their little sheets. It's best if you start at the corner and you just kind of build out with what you're doing. That way you really can fit the most out of your sheet. It gives you just, you know, more bang for your buck. So we will trace these out, and then we'll color them in. A good rule of thumb is to have your image be around the size of your hand if you want something that is going to be a keychain or something. So it's going to shrink down by about 80%. So it's best to choose something that isn't going to shrink too small. If you get down below a couple of inches, it will just be really, really tiny. And if that's what you're going for with maybe a charm or something like that, you can do something that's, you know, around 2 inches by 2 inches. That would give you like a nice little charm size. So as you fill in your little shrinky outline that you've made, it's really important to notice that as you get in close to the black lines that you've made, your Sharpie can actually kind of wipe those lines away. If that happens, it's no big deal. You can just go back through afterwards and draw those lines right back on. Sometimes also you'll notice that as you're coloring something in with the Sharpie, when you hit that black line, it kind of pulls a little bit of that black. It starts to mix with the color that's in your hand already, and you'll get some black on there. That's why I keep an extra sheet of paper, because then I can just write all of that black off, and then I can go right back to what I was doing with a clean yellow. The white underneath also helps you to see exactly what you're doing on your sheet. If you're not using an outline at all, if you're just free drawing, that white sheet is super important to have underneath so that you can see what you're doing. So I'm going to make myself a pair of earrings. So I'm going to draw the top arc of my rainbow. And if I didn't have that white underneath, it would be really hard to see exactly what I was doing. So now I can draw what I need. also use acrylic paint markers too. They're a little bit more advanced, so I wouldn't suggest them for kids under 12, but you can just draw out what you want and fill it in with these really thick, opaque art markers. The acrylic paint is just gonna give it a little bit more, it's gonna be a little thicker. Through some of these, through the Sharpies, you can see kind of the stroke lines. With the acrylic marker, you won't be able to. The one thing with the acrylic markers is that you have to wait for what you are painting. You need to wait for that first layer to dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and also you do have to prime them too. So I'm gonna shake this one up and prime it. The reason it's not great for little kids is because if they push down too hard on this paint, it will come pouring out. So you can kind of see how it's kind of filling up that nib there. I'm gonna touch it a couple more times and then get it ready. And then I can draw the little pot for this guy on. But I just wanna butt right up next to the color that I'm on top of, because I can't go over top of it until it's completely dry. It will just mix the paint, and it'll actually mix the paint on top of your nib, and it will make it really yucky. So you just want to wait for those layers to dry, and then you can go back over top of them with black. And that's it's a great tool, but it definitely takes a little more patience, a little more time, and it can get sticky too. So definitely for older kids. Once your acrylic paint marker is dry, you can use a black or a white liner to go around and just outline your edges if you would like to. After it's dry, it goes on pretty nicely. If you notice that there are areas that it's just it's a little flaky, or you need to go back over, just thicken your lines a little bit. And sometimes when you're going across from between one color and you're going over top, you'll kind of pull some of that paint off. You know, just draw it right back on.
Very time consuming. Oh, Ash, your dragon's awesome. Take a long time. I've only done 2.
Alright, I'm gonna do colored pencils on this guy. Or you know what? Another fun trick that we're gonna try. I love Derwent Inktense pencils. You don't even have to use them as a pencil. You can just use them as a really super bright watercolor too. You just get a lot of cool colors once you have the tin. Like this tin has 72 colors. So I'm gonna take a brush with water and I'm just gonna throw some of this down. I've lined this little popsicle guy with just a basic black paint marker, acrylic paint marker, and I'm gonna just throw some of this pigment. You can see I'm just kind of scrubbing it off. I'm just gonna throw some of this blue pigment on here from the Inktense pencil. Because the cool thing about the Inktense pencils is that they're permanent when they're dry. So this isn't gonna scrape off or anything. So I'm gonna add that on there, and he's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to take this purple, and I'm just gonna kind of splatter some purple over top of him. I just think it'll give him a cool dimension and watercolor effect that we wouldn't have otherwise. So just taking the side of my brush and just kind of tapping through there. He looks really cool and watercolory, and once he dries, it's going to be permanent, and then I can bake it and turn it into my Shrinky Dink. But you get a really cool marbled effect with that. And you can kind of tap some of them on there. There it is. And we're going to cut these down a little bit. Once you have them cut down and you know where you want to put your hole, so these two I'm going to turn into earrings. So I want to punch a little hole right at the top. And then I want to make sure it's centered, especially for earrings, to where the weight's going to be distributed pretty evenly. I'm going to cut around that hole, and I'm going to leave, you know, maybe a 1/16 of an inch of border around the outside of this guy. Whatever size border you choose, just be pretty consistent so you don't have a lot of white on the edges in some spot and not in others. Now that we have our little Shrinky Dinks cut out, we're going to put them on just a regular cookie sheet, a non-stick pan, and we're going to make sure that we give them a decent amount of space in between each. When these do heat up, they are going to kind of shrink. They're going to like buckle a little bit, and we don't want them toppling over and touching each other because they will stick as they're hot. We are waiting on our oven to get up to 350 degrees, and that's really dependent upon which brand you choose, but follow the instructions on your particular set of shrink film. Now that our oven has reached 350 degrees, that's the temperature for our directions. You need to follow the temperature for your directions. We are going to pop these in the oven. First, I would normally put some parchment paper or wax paper over top of them just to give a little bit of pressure to hold them down, but we're out of both at the moment, so we're going to try some aluminum foil with the non-stick side down. And that's just to kind of keep these babies flat while we are baking them. So our directions for our particular brand say 2 to 3 minutes between 300 and 350. I typically go with the higher temperature and just watch to see. And you'll see that some of them are still a little wrinkly, so I go ahead and put them back in for another second. If you have some that are folded up like my little rainbow guy down here on the corner, just give them a little bit longer. You're not really going to hurt anything by letting them bake for another minute.
2, 1.
Okay, it looks like everybody is flat. We are going to go ahead and pull these out and put them up on the stove and let them cool down a little bit. while your sheet is still kind of warm, you want to kind of pry these guys up a little bit so they don't stick completely. If you have any that seem to be stuck and you kind of bend them a little bit while you're pulling them up, as long as that sheet's still warm, you can just kind of press down and it'll make them flat again. So here we have them. All the little Shrinky Dinks we made. You can tell how small they get based on how they started. And you can also see the difference in the materials we used. These are all going to be your basic permanent marker, Sharpie marker. This is an acrylic marker. That is, you get a really nice, bright, vibrant, opaque look. And this is the inktense pencil. It's really, really just a nice watercolory look. You can kind of see some of the variation in him. It's really cool. If I had a jump ring here with me, I would throw that little ring onto these holes and then put it on a little keychain, or I could do it onto earrings, and you know, those are all things that you can do with them. You could even take a little bit of Gorilla Glue or any super glue E6000 and you could put a little dab on the back and make a magnet. You could turn these, throw string through them and turn them into ornaments or sun catchers. If you use the acrylic, you won't be able to make them into sun catchers, but if you used, you know, just the basic Sharpie, you can still catch a lot of light through them. So I can't wait to see what you guys do with all of these. If you didn't even want to do anything with them at all, they would make a great bookmark or even something cute that you could just prop up, a cute little, a little trinket. So looking forward to see what you guys make. You remember to use the hashtag #MadeWithMcHarper. And we will see you real soon. Thanks.